Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, let's start this one with a short one. So this is a story about my girlfriend's son's entitled Pride of a Girlfriend. We will call her Jay. So Jay just turned 18 a few months ago, and 18 is a legal drinking age in this area. She loves going to the bar but doesn't always have money. So what she'll do is spend the night flirting with guys and getting them to buy her drinks. Then will reject the guys when they ask her to leave with them. Well, last week her luck finally ran out. She spent the night doing her normal thing, flirting with this group of guys, getting them to buy her drinks. As usual, they asked her about coming home with them and she rejected them. And these guys just walk out. Bartender comes over to Jay and informs her that not only did the guys not pay for her drinks, but they left their entire tab for her to pay. And I'm so sad that I missed the shocked Pikachu face she made at that moment, and I honestly want to buy a round of drinks for these guys. She did have a female friend with her, and I do agree with everybody that's saying this seems like a dangerous game she's playing. I'm well aware of all the possible issues that can pop up from a scenario like this, but I think she got just the right level of karma for this one. So, I live in a small town in Michigan in the middle of nowhere, and our police force is very small, currently 10 active duty officers, and I only recently started my duty as a police officer. I'm mostly stationed on the east side of the city, but I grew up on the west side. Not many people recognize me here, so I come across a lot of Karens who don't know I'm a cop when I'm off duty or undercover. We get a lot of them near the end of the month in and around our shopping mall, so even in my off hours I spend some time down there just in case there is an emergency. One day I was doing some gift shopping for my friend's birthday when I heard a commotion at the front of the store. It didn't seem too major, but I decided that I've been shopping long enough and was curious anyway, so I made my way over to pay when I saw Karen in a heated debate with one of the young employees working there. I set myself up in a checkout behind her and kept my hand near my phone in case I needed to text my on-duty friend. I don't understand how stupid you can be. Did you even graduate high school? I have these coupons that cover that, and this is 50% off, so therefore my total should be this and not that. I'm sorry ma'am, but I told you that coupon is expired, and even with those coupons that aren't expired, you can't use two on the same purchase. I demand to see your manager. I'm sorry, she is out at the moment. If you would like to wait for her, I can hold your items for you. This is unacceptable. I have places to be. Just give me this for free. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Then get me an older employee who can. At this point, the woman had gone from yelling to screaming and had thrown her coupons at the cashier. I tell her, "Ma'am, please calm down. She's just a teenager and throwing things is just plain childish. You don't talk to me that way, missy. Mind your own business." I shrugged and closed my mouth. But I told myself if she did anything more aggressive, I'll pull out my badge. They kept up this back and forth for a while, the Karen demanding the same things and the girl apologizing and repeating her answer. And when finally the woman realized she wasn't getting what she wanted, she grabbed her bags and sprinted for the door. So I waited for her to cross the security rails, and as they went off, I caught up to her in a few seconds. She was a very slow, portly woman, and I tackled her to the ground. After reading Karen her rights, I called my buddy and he came to arrest her, getting the camera footage from the target and even bringing me down to help him fill out paperwork. I have more Karen stories to tell, but this was the most recent. I've tackled a lot of Karens. Edit. Thanks for the support. I will be posting a lot more of my stories from now on. Update on the Karen. She was charged $500 for petty thievery and was banned from the store permanently. I'm happy to hear people aren't bashing me for being a policewoman in these trying times. I've been scared to post about it considering the riots and the tension between cops and civilians. I live in a small city and drama like that doesn't really happen here. And a lot of our officers are more like kind fathers more than militaristic coppers who shoot on sight. Hello. Per Pro Revenge, I will be using fake names for this story that happened to me about 7 years ago. The job. I was starting my side business doing IT work for businesses and had some successful jobs for a few companies. I found word of mouth was the best way to gain new clients because entrepreneurs tend to network with other business owners. Tony was one such client who had heard I had done some work for a client and called to see if I could help. His company's needs were to stop using a semi-accounting service, but they have been paying a percentage of their profit to process payments, purchase orders, and billings/receivables. He brought in an accountant to work on a new product, pretty well known. They wanted the server to be accessible remotely and had already paid their ISP for a static IP for the server, but needed the actual server, redundancy UPS, and firewall device. I explained that for the product they had, we could probably set up a workstation and not a server, and it would run approximately $3,500 total and will be easy, but no. The owner wanted a full-blown server system with all the bells and whistles. He explained that he would likely be using the server for a CRM and a few other systems later on. The setup. Overall, the entire cost for the system will be $8,000, not including a few other services that needed annual billing, like VPN/remote service. Equipment cost was $7,500. My labor charge was $500. UPS was $1,500. Server was $3,800. And refurbished firewall, Cisco ACA, with programming by a third-party specialist was $1,800, and a spare rack was like $500. I got my contract signed, put an order with my distributor, I have net 45 set up with them, and a firewall specialist, and got to work 1.5 weeks later when the firewall came in last. I finished the job on a single weekend and got everything up and going after a call to the ISP who did not like the firewall appliance I installed. For some reason they had to tweak things on their end and finally allowed the traffic to go through once more. I confirmed the function with the owner who verbally approved and was happy. The jerk move. I sent my invoice promptly on Monday, left it as in they had 1 week to pay. When I saw no reply or payment after 4 days, I messaged Tony and asked if they had received my invoice. To my surprise, he replied the server was not working and proceeded to call me and tell me that the whole thing was a total waste of money and I should have never done the job. I of course apologized and informed them that I will be on the way to fix whatever the problem was. When I got there, they refused to let me in to see the server, claiming they had someone coming over to fix my mishaps. At that point, I informed them they still needed to pay for the equipment, and we could maybe discuss my labor after I figure out what's going on. Tony refused to let me in and was pretty upset. The advice. At this time, I was pretty upset. 2.5 weeks had passed since I ordered my equipment and my distributor was needing to get paid within 45 days. I was getting very nervous and was thinking of taking it to small claims court until talking with a friend, and he informed me that I could pull a mechanic's lien. I informed him that this was for IT, and he stated that the mechanic's lien where I lived can actually be pulled on various industries, and IT was one of them. So I started the process to fill out and file a mechanic's lien on Tony's company. Much to my surprise, there was no court date. All I needed to do was provide considerable proof to clerks and later to the constable. The revenge. After filling out the mechanic's lien and serving him notice, I once again gave him the opportunity to pay the $8,000 owed. By this time I had spoken with my distributor and he switched my account from net 45 to net 80. He refused via phone call and got him on text. I took the information I had and went to the local constables who, after seeing the mechanic's lien and proof, they set up an appointment to meet me at the place of business to take back my server, UPS, and firewall. I went in on Tuesday, which I had learned was the day the accountant came in to start the week. Constable and I arrived at 7:30 a.m. right on opening time. At first, they refused entry until Tony came by and was informed I was enforcing my mechanic's lien and would be taking back my equipment. He immediately got riled up and claimed I could not take the equipment because a new person had replaced it all. The constable asked if I had serial numbers and models for the equipment, which I did. We go in and find my server, UPS, and firewall all in the exact same way I left it. The server showed it had been online for the entire time. No real changes were noticed, and as far as I could tell, no one had worked on it. Tony began to chuckle when I shut the server down, and he said, "How are you going to take the system when it's bolted to the ground? Bet you didn't think about that, did you, you idiot?" He did not realize that track-mounted equipment is not permanently attached to the mount. I guess he thought he had me beat because it was all one system that you cannot take apart and not something that was put together. His jaw dropped the moment I removed the server and loaded it onto the cart after removing a couple of bolts. He started panicking and started telling the constable that he would sue him if he did not stop me. The constable simply stayed calm and ignored the owner. I guess after a bit he informed Tony that he needed to get out of his face and step back. But when Tony refused to back down, the constable undid his holster safety harness and put his hand on his firearm. Tony's face was exquisite, full of fear and eventually a dawning sensation that this was going to happen one way or another. At first I did not understand why he was so riled up and now had a panicked face like his world just collapsed, until a bit later. I wrapped up my server, UPS firewall, and left the rack. True to Tony's word, undoing the bolts proved difficult to impossible with the tools I had. So I told Tony he could keep it for the new server he tries to set up. It didn't take more than 2 hours before I got a call from him stating that he had talked to his attorney and would be suing me for damages and I will be going to jail for trespassing. I informed him that he did not pay for the equipment. His equipment was repoed, thus there was nothing to sue for. As far as trespassing, I was servicing a mechanic's lien with a law enforcement officer, thus it is not trespassing. He then starts hemming and hawing about how he needs to bill clients because he hasn't had revenue in a week, but his accountant can't do anything because she has no access to the accounting software and they have no copies. I informed him that it was not my problem. I would not be given access to the server nor data contained, and he should have paid for the equipment instead of trying to screw me over for $8,000. He then offered to pay me if I could install the server back the same day, but that only if I did it that same day. Otherwise, he'd find someone else. I informed him that our original contract was null and void. I will be returning the equipment to my distributor, but first I had to wipe the storage by DoD standards, which means 0% chance of recovering files unless he somehow had NSA-level funds. He starts freaking out and resorts back to what he usually did. Threatens me to lawsuit, make my life a living hell and so on. So I hung up and texted him that I'm going to proceed to delete his data that evening, and that I was no longer interested in working with him. More advice and a real revenge. He called me at least 50 times. I just silenced my phone and had a talk with my friend later that night. The friend who had given me the advice. He then tells me why I was returning the equipment. If I have the only copy that has everything from client names, contacts, phone numbers, billings, receivables, and so on. He asked me how much revenue the company generated. I informed him that I was taking a wild guess, but it was somewhere in the ballpark of $58,678.21. And that's only for the last months. He laughs and tells me, why don't you charge them double the price to get his equipment back and have him pay you cash before you start? He was right. I was taking my petty revenge and walking out with $1,800 in a firewall I had to pay in advance and a $500 unpaid labor charge. Why not take it a step further, get sweeter revenge, and get paid a fat stack of money? The following day I messaged Tony. I apologize for the way I behaved yesterday. It was not professional. Unfortunately, your crappy attitude and attempts to screw me over got the better of me. The server has not been wiped yet. I would like to reconsider a new arrangement so we can salvage this sour experience and turn it into sweet honey. Are you interested in working with me to get your equipment back? I must warn you, it will be extra since I will be doing double the work. Let me know. Tony immediately called me and immediately his jerk ways came up. I knew you would change your mind and come crawling back. Yes, I want everything back, but I'm only paying $8,050 and not a dime more. The $50 is me being generous to give you a second chance to do things right. I immediately informed him that I still have all the equipment and in fact it would only take maybe 20 minutes to complete the job. However, I had a different idea in terms of the price. The new price was $15,000 to be paid in cash. He immediately starts yelling and hollering. I keep talking and inform him that he has 2 weeks to decide if being able to get paid by his clients was worth it, and if not, the equipment was going back and that would be that. No hard feelings. And I hang up. About 2 days later, I got a call from Tony informing me he agreed to a new arrangement to please set it up and install it as soon as possible. I tell him I can go Friday, but I would need to be paid $15,000 cash before I even unload a single bolt from my vehicle, and he agreed. I could hear a lady talking and tell him that he needs to get this resolved because they had not had revenue in nearly 2 weeks. This was on Wednesday. On Thursday, I get a call from his daughter, who is apparently the accountant, and the lady who was telling him to resolve it. She is cutting a check and needs to know my name. I informed her I would not be accepting checks, and I had told Tony specifically it will be in cash. She says okay and tells me if the amount of $12,000 was correct. I once again corrected her and informed her that the correct amount was $15,000 in cash. She said in a satire, "Of course it's $15,000. I will make the withdrawal and have the money ready tomorrow." Sure enough, Friday morning, true to her words, she and Tony were there with the $15,000 cash. I counted it in front of her and Tony. She makes a comment saying that I was a lifesaver because they could not go back to the servers they used before to get paid, and they urgently needed to get some POs sent out. I placed it in my vehicle, locked the glove box, and unloaded the equipment. True to my word, it took me 20 minutes to place the server, firewall and UPS inside the rack mount, connect the cables, power on the server, and ask them to test it out when they get a chance. If anything was wrong, do not contact me and have a good day. I actually had tested it out already before I left their server room. Despite my pettiness at times, I'm still a professional. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.